Evening booktube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. And I am sorry this is really late, but my mom had decided last Friday on third Wednesday that we should go see my grandmother who is in South Carolina. So it's only a 3-hour drive for us because we live in North Carolina. So she decided that since I was off on Friday that we would go see her and spend the day with her. So we left Thursday after work, and we spent Friday there with her. We spent Friday with her, and then we left early enough and we left early enough Saturday so I could get home in time to be at work at 1, because like I said, it's only a 3-hour drive. So as long as we left early enough, I would be able to make it in time to get ready and go to work. I just ate, so of course I have my throat is a little. I'm probably one of the few people that actually is not really watching the football game here in America. So it's like, I don't care really. I mean, I don't even care about the commercials or the halftime show. I mean, I may spare a glance at the screen if I happen to come downstairs and watch it because, of course, my mom does not want me to, get any crumbs on this floor on my carpet because I eat like a child sometimes, and wants me to eat things like my dessert, my cupcake dessert that she got in honor of the Super Bowl downstairs. So I will probably, I'll probably catch a glance at it, but that's about it. I don't care. I'm not a sports person. I mean, I did do I played basketball and soccer for Special Olympics junior kids teams for a little bit, but then I only did both those maybe once a year, one time for a year, and that was about it. But I mean, I'm glad I did it because it was something, an experience. So, I think every experience matters, and you gotta try things and get out and do stuff, even if it ends up being not that big of a deal and ends up being something that you only do for a small period of time. It might be one of the best things ever that you did, and unfortunately, this was not something like that. But I'm so glad I did it. One of the things I am glad that I did that I wish I had done was one summer my parents signed me up for this readers camp thing and I almost wish I had pursued it again or pursued it further because it was really fun. It was kind of like a giant book club, and we met in a library and we each got to pick books that we wanted to read. And of course, some of us read the same book, so then we would come in and talk about the book. And then by the end of it, you could pick the books that you enjoyed and keep them. So that was when I got Dancing on the Edge, which I do not remember the author's name, and that's one of the books I've donated. But I read Gathering Blue, which is from I think it's the second book in the Giver Quartet, but I did not keep that one. There's a couple other ones, but I can't think of their names. But actually, that's okay though, because I want to save it for a video. I want to do a video on books that I was trying to remember that I read long before Goodreads, and long before BookTube that I read, but because they're not popular like Harry Potter, Twilight, it's hard to find them unless you remember the title. So I wanted to actually do a video on that, but I'll do that later. I'll film that maybe tomorrow or something, because I actually have 2 days off. Thankfully, I have 2 days off, which will be nice. So, and I actually might use one of those days to go to the library. I don't know yet. I mean, although I am off on the 7th, and then I'm off on the 8th when my library books are due. So I could wait until then, but I might just get it done and over and just go either tomorrow or Tuesday, just get it done and over with. I mean, yes, it's gonna be like a few days, several, like 7, like a week before they're actually due. But you know what? I want to get them. I want to go ahead and renew them and get it taken care of. So anyway, we went to my grandma's house, we spent the day with her, and actually it turned out I was able to go to a bookstore. So my original plan was to go to Barnes and Noble, but surprise, surprise, this Barnes and Noble's closed. That Barnes and Noble's closed now. You know, I mean, I knew that was. I should have known that was coming because the whole thing, like, I remember a while back reading about how Barnes & Noble was starting to fall apart. The company was falling apart because they were competing with Amazon and they need to get their act together. And for a while, that Barnes & Noble lasted for a long time. You know, I mean, I was there in 2016. I think that was the last time I went, was in 2016. To go live with my grandmother before we moved to North Carolina. It would be just too much trouble with me and with our dogs, and us trying to sell our house and showing our house. So they decided to let me stay at my grandma's house until we finally moved and left the house and sold it. So I think that was the last time I was at. Books A Million. I mean, at that Barnes & Noble. It might have been later than that. I don't remember, but either way, it's been a long time. And I remember at the time asking the woman, the female cashier, about it, and at the time she was thinking, oh, well, so far we're still going strong, we're still trying, and lo and behold, years later, the store is permanently closed, and in fact, my cousin even told me what they were going to replace it with. But I actually don't remember what she said it was going to be replaced with. But it was very disappointing. And I agreed with both my mom and my aunt that I kind of like that store. I love my books. I appreciate and love my Books A Million. And I definitely appreciate it more because even though it doesn't have a cafe, as you know, which is apparently the big thing with Terry, to me, the cafe thing is not that big of a deal, but I'm so used to that. And her method of book purchasing is she has to take the time to go through the book and wants to sit down and read the book, which fine, I get that, I understand that. But for me, I usually have a pretty good idea of what I want to get, and I have even more of a good idea because Goodreads now. I mean, I imagine before Goodreads, I probably did a lot more of that, like sitting down and picking out, selecting books. But I always went to the same section, so it was never like I always went to the YA fantasy section. So it wasn't any, so it wasn't. It was still. I still kind of I still had an idea of what I wanted back then. But anyway, so they've been competing with Amazon all the time, and I am wondering if the Books A Million company is gonna fall apart because it's still a good company, but it's another company that might be competing with Amazon. I mean, although as I just realized I did not finish what I was gonna say, that I lean towards Books A Million. Because I lean towards Barnes & Noble because I like the atmosphere and it feels a little more old-fashioned and a little more warm and inviting, like with the colors and stuff, although it's a bigger, the Barnes & Nobles are big stores. But I liked going there. I look forward to going to the Barnes & Nobles. Now, I'm wondering, now there was another Barnes & Noble that I went to when I was living in Maryland that was in one of the major malls that was 2 stories. So I'm wondering if that one is still in business. Not that it matters, because I'm not going to go in that mall anytime soon. It's back in Maryland, so. But I am curious if that one is still open or if that one is closed too. I mean, I know that the one that's in North Carolina that's an hour away from us I went there in 2017, and so I don't know if that one is still open, because I know some of them are still open in other states, but a lot of them are closing. So who knows? I mean, I hope it is, but I guess in the long run it doesn't really matter, because I don't go there, and Books A Million is still open, and it's easy access. And I'm definitely grateful for my store now, because the Books A Million I went to, my mom. Okay, so I ended up going to Books A Million, but unfortunately, this Books A Million is attached to the mall in this town, and that mall is not that great. It's not that pretty or nice, and my mom has been very, like, she's not comfortable going there anymore. So she was a little apprehensive about dropping off, but she let me go. She dropped me off, and it wasn't the same as my Books A Million. It felt almost very chaotic, and I was a little confused. Of course, I've never been to this Books A Million before, but I was a little, like, struggling a little bit to find the books I wanted, and it turns out that quite a lot of them weren't there. I mean, there were some there that were, books of series that I was slowly collecting, all the books in the series, and sometimes I wonder, maybe I should have bought them. I always do this. Like, there's books in series that I want to get the next book right away, but then all of a sudden I'm like, I see another book that I want more, and that at the time I'm more determined to get, so I buy that one, and once again pass over the other book. Like, I should have bought the book that comes after Time of Contempt in the Witcher series. I should have bought that one, but I didn't. I passed it up. I mean, it's still on my Books A Million, so I probably could still get it there at some point. Because, I mean, I don't think it's going to go away. At least I hope not. But, I mean, I could always still order online, and now it's easier for me to do that. But, anyway, so I went there, and I did get 2 books. Which, by the way, I feel more comfortable, I feel more satisfied when I'm able to get at least 2 books over just one. I mean, I honored my mom's request, and just got 1 book last time, which was one that I was excited at, I was interested in. What got my attention about this book was not because someone had mentioned it as an anticipated release, but actually because Olive from Book Olive Reddin did this very beautiful, very eloquent review of the book. Like, that's the word I would use to describe her reviews. She's very well spoken, very eloquent. Even her reviews when she's a little tipsy are still very well spoken and very thorough and just really well done. And I love listening to her. Like, if she ever becomes a famous audiobook narrator, that's her dream job. And both her and Murphy Napier, I'm definitely interested in hearing their voices. I don't buy audiobooks on a regular basis because they're just as expensive as a hardback. But, which I get why. But, I mean, I only have a minimum wage job. But, okay, yeah, so I think Mom was right. I think I am getting sick, which is not good. I think I jinxed myself. I was talking to my mom in the car when we were driving to South Carolina to see my grandma, and I was like, oh, so far we haven't got sick yet this winter, and, it's like, knock on wood, and lo and behold, now I'm feeling a little bit congested. Which is really annoying because it gets in the way of my speaking to you guys on my videos, or just speaking in general. So the books I ended up getting are, and I didn't just get books. I also got something else as well, but I'll show you that in a minute. So both these books were on my Amazon wish list, and one of them, it was this particular edition I wanted anyway, so I was very excited because at first I couldn't find them, and I was very like, how did they not have them? I mean, especially because I think this edition is related to the Books A Million Company. Like, this is something that only the Books A Million Company puts out. I don't know, it could be wrong. But I think, like, the only other place you might come across them is, like, as an used bookstore if someone returns a copy of it in that edition. But I will show you that after I show you this. So, this is one of the books that came out. Let me look up the release date. I think it was a 2019 release. Let me see. I'm trying to find that page. Okay, here's the copyright. Yep, 2019. So this is a year old, and I feel like that is Serpent and Dove. So this was on my wish list as one of the ones, and I've always kind of have been a fan of witch stories. I mean, I'm still mildly interested in the Wicked Deep, but it would be a lot easier if that one was at. I mean, I'm sure I would still enjoy it. It's just I would rather just borrow it from the library instead of buying it. It's another one to add to my collection, and it's like, do I really want to add it to my collection even though I'm interested in it? But anyway, this is one that it has. This is one that came out. This is the one about this witch who has decided to forsake her coven. She's done with magic. She runs away, and she runs this town where she ends up coming across witch hunters, and she is essentially forced to marry one of the witch hunters due to some unforeseen circumstances, and it's about their relationship together as a married couple. I have heard some criticism about the romance in this book, but I'm not, I personally don't care. I mean, I do have my limits to the kind of romances I like. I have preferences, but you know what? If this is a good written, if this is an engaging plot, then I'm gonna love it. And I'm just not, like, I would be terrible as a critic. I would not be a good critic. I would never do it for a profession. I mean, I was a reviewer for a magazine for a friend of ours, but that magazine fell apart. I think, like, she lost the magazine to someone else or gave it to someone else. I don't know the details. But I was a reviewer. I did do a little bit of reviewing, which I feel like with reviews, you don't have to be super critical. Just say how you feel about the book. And, I mean, of course, there's going to be things that you don't like about it, but anyway. And I love this cover. I've always been intrigued by the snake symbolism. And the snake is also my Chinese horoscope. So I've definitely looked more into snakes, I've considered snakes a lot more. And I like the symbolism of it. Now, in other cultures other than Christianity, it's a symbolism for wisdom and knowledge. It's not just this monster that eats people and, like, has tempted Eve in the garden to eat the forbidden fruit. It's also, like I said, in other cultures, like China, it's represented for wisdom and knowledge. So, I love this cover. Again, another book that does not have anything on the cover, but is really disappointing. I've said this before, I don't like taking off dust jackets, especially if it's a naked hardback. I don't like naked hardbacks. I want the hardback to have something on it, even like a symbolism, like even at least a symbol that you can barely see. I would be cool with that. But anyway, yeah, so I got that one. And then the other one is actually a classic, and this is the one with the edition that I really like, that I think is a Books-A-Million exclusive. Or not exclusive, but it's an edition that they only sell at Books-A-Million unless you see it at a used bookstore. This is the Pickwick Papers, and I do not know much about this one, but I've been slowly collecting Dickens' work. I like his writing, and of course, this is a commentary on a lot of the society of England at the time, especially the wealthy society. And it's funny, I'm actually starting reading Trollope, who is been. I hate when I get these congestion, because it just makes it hard for me to talk, and I can feel it in the back of my throat and in my nose. But I started reading Trollope, and I also started watching Steve Donahue's videos again, and he's not a fan of Dickens. He prefers Trollope, but he compares Dickens and Trollope. and he says, like, and this is just his opinion, but, like, Dickens, like, Trollope is a better version of what Dickens is trying to be. That's something along those lines. Don't quote me on that, but I think, but, so, and they do, I've read The Warden, and, you know, I've read Dickens already, quite a few Dickens works now, and they are very similar in what they write about, and they have similar writing styles. But, sorry, I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get the whole, there's a, yes, I got it! The little sticky price sticker. Just got that. I'll have to throw that away. But this, I love these. They're these cartoonish editions that are, like, brightly colored. Just, and I think I have hardback versions of these editions. Of these kinds of books. I think the hardback one that I have is the same edition, but just a hardback version of it. I'm not 100% sure. I love to buy, like, the Jane Eyre, not Jane Austen, Jane Eyre one as well. I would love to get that one. And these are some of the cheaper editions. Like, this is, $5.75. Yep, $5.75 or $5.97, and then so almost $6. And then the other one is probably like $7.57 or something, so it's close to $8. So that's not a bad price for these kinds of, for a book like this. I think as classics get older, they just get cheaper and cheaper. But I love these editions. I also, and as you guys know, I also love the Barnes Noble ones, which I'm so mad at myself because I had a chance to get the Barnes Noble edition of Wives and Daughters, this brightly pastel color covers with, you know, they're just a solid color, and then the title, and there's the picture or artwork that would probably be the same thing on, like, a mass market edition, but it's nice because they're brightly colored, and I almost got Wives and Daughters. I saw it at the used bookstore. I just hope it's still there, but it might not be by the time I go back there. I don't know when that will be. But I want to get that one. It's probably not going to be there, and I could always get it online too, so. But I love those editions as well. But anyway, I love these. I love the drawings on them and the bright colors. It's just, I don't know why, I just really like them. So that's what I bought, and I don't know if I showed you guys this. I think I did. But last time I went to Gibbons, I think I did show you these Daphne du Maurier books, probably, but I got this one, because first of all, I love the cover, and it sounded like such an interesting plot. It kind of reminded me of that book that just came out about the guy who joins a company of bookbinders, but it turns out it's not just binding books, it's binding memories into books, memories that you want to forget, and this, it kind of, except for this one, like a combination, this one is like a combination of that plot meets The Ninth Gate, starring Johnny Depp, which was based on a book too, I believe. Like this Australian woman, she's a rare book expert, and she's invited to take a look at this one particular book or something. But it sounds really interesting. And like I said, I don't want this to turn into a situation where it takes a long time for me to get to the book, and then, like, I end up, feeling the pressure that I need to donate some books and going through and then I go on Goodreads and I look at reviews. I'm like, oh, I changed my mind about this. I don't want this book anymore. I'm not interested. So I don't want to keep using that excuse and not at least try books. Because I feel like I always do that. There's a lot of books I'm not 100% sure about, but they sounded interesting at first when I first saw them, and then all of a sudden I changed my mind. I'm like, I'm no longer interested. Let me go on Goodreads to justify my lack of interest. So I don't want this to become one of those books. So I want to read this soon. And then, like I said, I think I showed you that one and these two as well. But you guys know, I read last year, I read Rebecca. So I have been wanting to get Daphne du Maurier's other books. So I got Marianne a while back. I don't know if I got that one before I got Rebecca. Maybe because, I might have got Marianne before I got Rebecca. Because, I was looking for Daphne du Maurier, and I was like, you know what, I'll just try this one for now and get that one because it's the same author. Or maybe I got it after I got Rebecca. I can't remember. But these are her other books by her. They're unfortunately blank. They don't have covers or anything. But it was one of those situations where I was like, let me just grab these. They're cheap. I don't know when I'll ever get them cheap again. And I mean, they're not the nice covers, but it's a chance. I'm not going to miss out on a chance to get them. So you have My Cousin Rachel, which was made into a movie starring Rachel Weisz, and I can't remember his name, but he's the guy from Hunger Games. He played what is his name on Hunger Games? I can't remember. I think it's an F. It starts with F. I can't remember. Finnick Odair. The actor played Finnick Odair. And then he's also was in Me Before You. I can't remember the main. He was the main guy in Me Before You. And then he also played the prince in Snow White and the Huntsman franchise series or duology or whatever you want to call it. I hate this. I can taste it in my throat, and like I said, it alters my speaking. It's hard to speak. I can't remember. I'll remember his name after I'm done filming this. But I have that. From what I know, it's basically this guy. When he was a young boy, he was taken by his cousin. And then years later, his cousin, he ends up marrying this woman named Rachel. And so, our main narrator is he finds out that his cousin died and Rachel, so he's a little suspicious about them and thinks that Rachel might be involved, and she shows up at his home. And by the looks of the movie, I'm going by the movie, I think she there's a possible she gets to him and gets him to fall in love with her. But you don't know if really she's the bad guy or not. It's it feels like another domestic thriller of a story. And then there's Jamaica Inn, which I know nothing about. But it's another Daphne du Maurier book, so. And like I said, I have a paperback copy of both Rebecca and Marianne. So. And I just, when these things were, I wasn't going to miss out on getting them, and they were cheap, so. It's very hard to say no to, So, anyway, Sam from Thoughts on Tomes decided to make February around 10 of Tome Topple, and that will be starting in the 7th through the 20th. And I always, when I do readathons, I feel like I always am worried that I feel like I'm not being active as I should because I don't have a Twitter account, and a lot of readathon activities happen on Twitter, which I have mixed feelings about because on the one hand, there's stuff like that, and then there's actors that I would love to have a brief interaction with that I'm a fan of, and some of the actors are ones that don't go to conventions, or at least not like, they only go to Comic-Con and Pallyfest, but they don't go to like the smaller conventions in other states. And then, but at the same time, I don't want to deal with the drama of Twitter and the craziness, and I don't want to have another social network that I'm probably going to barely participate in, because I barely participate in Instagram, which is another thing, is like, I think I could do to be more active on Instagram for these readathons, to show my participation in them. I'm like, to show I'm reading the books. But it's, the good news though, they put some other stuff on Instagram too. And like I said, I could be more active on Instagram. But it's very hard because I don't have a Twitter account. I'm probably one of the few people left in the world that does not have a Twitter account. Anyway, so for Tome Top, so these two books here are not tomes. Although one of them I could potentially pretend is a tome, because it's not like Sam's gonna come after if it's not exactly 500 plus pages, if it's close enough. But I need to finish Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak, which is the Rumpelstiltskin retelling. And I'm really liking it, but it's taking me a while to read, because again, it's in a situation where you have not that many chapters, but they're very long chapters. There's 25 altogether in this one, and I am on chapter 15 right now. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but it kind of is at the same time. So I need to read this one. And and even if it doesn't count for Tome Topple, I could, it doesn't matter, because I could still, it's not like she's telling us to stop reading our other books. It's just like the readathon is to focus on those books, and it's easier if you only read those kinds of the books for the readathon rather than, I'm definitely gonna have to take something. I can feel it in my throat. It's really annoying because, again, it just makes it hard to talk on here. But anyway, so I could still read it, on and off. It's just gonna take me a while. What I could do is read this could be the one book I read in bed. That's nothing to do with Tome Topple. But it kind of, it's close. It's like 460 something pages. So it could potentially work. And the other one that's definitely that I don't think comes even close is one that I'm reading because it is actually Black History Month here in the U.S. Yeah, it's not even close. It's not even it's 417. So at least that one is a little bit closer. But this is about a young black boy who's a slave, and he accompanies the brother of his master on this adventure. But there, of course, is that divide between the two of them, where he is a black slave and his master is still a white slave owner. But they do form a bond and a bit of a friendship. And I don't know if this was intentional or not. It probably was intentional, maybe. But maybe it wasn't. Even though I've never read a book by Jules Verne, it makes me think of Jules Verne. Or it also makes me think of a book that I ended up DNFing, because it's hard for me to read books that have multimedia perspective. Like, they're in a different format other than, a traditional novel format. It kind of throws me off, and I feel like I don't know how to read that, even though, like, a lot of people just roll their eyes and say it's not that hard. It's like you look at the page and like, okay, where, it's a little confusing to figure out, okay, how are you supposed to read this? But the Explorers Guild, and I think I remember the author and his name actually be Kevin Costner. And I don't know if that's the actor, like he decided to write a book or not. But I tried to read that one, I couldn't, but it does remind me of this. So I want to read that one too. Like I said, it doesn't even come close, but I only started. I should start some of these books. The good news is I have 2 days off tomorrow. Okay, on to the actual oh, wait, one more book that is not a tome that I couldn't possibly read as a tome, and that is The Warden by Anthony Trollope. And like I said, he's been Steve Donahue compares him to Dickens in a lot of ways. So this is the first book in one of his series, which I cannot pronounce the series name. I need to hear it pronounced. In this first book, we have our main character is the Reverend Septimus Harding. He has 2 daughters. One of them is married to the Archdeacon, who Septimus does not like. And the other one is not married, but this guy named John Bold is interested in her, has feelings for her, wants to marry her, and she loves him. But then here comes the problem, the conflict. So, there's a bit of a debate between the Reverend and his beadsmen, which I guess men of the church, that the will of this guy named John Harum, who I guess I don't know if he owned the hospital or something, that some of his money was supposed to go to these guys, but then, John Bold is like, no, it should go to charity. It doesn't make any sense that it goes to you guys. You guys don't need the money. The people need the money. These people need charity. There's people that need charity. So it kind of, and the Archdeacon does not like John Bold. He does not want John Bold as a brother-in-law, which I do not get. How is that any of his business? It's up to Harding. It's his business who his daughter marries. And so he kind of manipulates the situation so that John Bold will not marry. If Eleanor, the daughter, finds out, then it will ruin their relationship. And, what he predicted is true. When the daughter finally asked her father about the situation, because John Bold did not come to the party that their family was holding, he explains to her what happened, and of course she stays loyal to her father, because he's her father. So of course she's going to stay loyal to him and support him, so it puts a wedge between her and John Bold. And that is probably the best description that I've ever given since practicing what I was going to say on this video. And, oh my god, this guy, the Archdeacon is such a douchebag. I know he's an Archdeacon, but come on, he's just such a jerk. And I don't understand why. So he has a right to sabotage the relationship between his sister-in-law and a potential husband? It's like, that's so stupid. The only person who has any power in that department other than Eleanor and John Bold is the father. You go to the father and ask permission if you can marry their daughter. The Archdeacon's opinion does not, the other guy, the brother-in-law, his opinion should not matter. So I'm sorry if you don't like this guy. And his wife kind of tells him, and this cover which is a bit disappointing, is falling apart. At least though, the good news is if I took this off, it's not blank. It has a pretty design on it. And yep, and then there's the file here. So I could take this off. I might have to. I don't want to, but it's it's ripping. Like this part is ripping. Is almost, I could pull it off. And so I might end up having to take these off, which is, like I said, disappointing. But anyway, even the wife basically tells him, "You're sabotaging their relationship because you don't like this guy. You don't want this guy as a brother-in-law." And he's like, "What? What's wrong with that?" So I'm guessing he's the antagonist of the story. I still don't entirely understand what's going on, and yep, it ripped off. Dang it. I'm just gonna have to take this off. Because which is sad, because I like it, and it has the description, but it's falling apart, which is disappointing. So, anyway, oh, crap! I just rubbed it against this part, and it completely ripped in half. Dang it. Well, I'm keeping this either way. I don't want to lose. I want to keep this. So, anyway, I probably still don't entirely understand. Okay, this is weird to me that, like, on the back flap, I mean, of course, on this front flap, they have the description of the novel that you're reading, but it's weird that on the back flap, it's not the description, not the author's biography, but it's another book that comes from the same quote unquote library, the publishing library. It's very weird. I don't go. I guess I would go that way. So it's so sad because it's sad. But I should have known better when I bought it because it's an older book, which I personally am a sucker for old vintage editions of books, but books that I like anyway, or books that I'm interested in. Like, I'm not gonna get a vintage edition of books that that I don't care about and I have no interest in. Okay, so I'll have to look for the other piece. So yeah, this obviously is not a tome, but I'm gonna read it. I want to read it. Okay, now as for the tome, so luckily for me, this counts as a tome, and it's not pushing it, and this is the second book in the Seven Realms series, and of course it picks up right where the first one left off, with our two main characters both on the run, although Race is not technically on the run per se. She's in hiding, but she's kind of on the run, and it's very, I'm really liking this series. It's definitely, it feels different, but it feels familiar at the same time. If that makes any sense. And of course, it does that whole idea of a character fighting with the good and evil within them, which is a bit of a trope, but I mean, I like the trope though. It's an interesting trope. I like it. And we haven't gone to Race yet. I've only read up to chapter 3, but so I haven't really got to Race's part yet. I mostly, actually chapter 3 is from Race's perspective, but is with Race's part. But like the first chapter was the guard that had failed to capture Han, Alistair. That's the first chapter. And the second chapter is with Han and Dancer, and they're like said they're on the run, and they try to disguise themselves and stuff. But of course, Han does a really dumb thing and reveals himself without meaning to, but he's being influenced by the amulet that he has. And if you read the first book, you'll understand why. And chapter 3 will be about Risa. Will be from whatever she's doing. So it's and there is like I said, I still find it so funny that like I got the prequel or the sequel series, the first book in that series, and gave it to my cousin who does not read at all. I mean, he reads a little bit, but he doesn't read a lot. I got the first book in that series, so that's and unfortunately, I don't even know if he maybe got rid of it or maybe he still has it. I don't know, but you might not remember anyway. And it's not. But this is about, let's see, how many pages is this book? This is 586 pages, so it definitely counts. So that's good news. I can read that one. And then another one that I finally started reading. Oh, I'll have to show you those after the fact. So I finally started progressing in Ken Follett's his trilogy, his Centuries trilogy. And the first book is Fall of Giants, which takes place during World War One. And you have like these, it has quite a few families, like the royal family and then two families that are of lower class. You have the royal family, I think, or no, not the royal family. An earl and his sister, I believe, is married to the Tsar of Russia. You have this one middle class family who work. They're the boy, the men and the males in their family have to go work at the mines. And when he's as an adult, there's a mine explosion. He has to save a bunch of people in the process, and it becomes this whole big thing. And even he speaks out loud because they have this type of prayer service where you can just speak what's ever on your mind to God out loud. So he prays to God that if God could explain to you why this happened. And of course, this did not make his dad very happy. And then the sister, the dad is also not happy with his daughter because she, as a young woman, is working at the Earl's home, the Earl Fitzherbert's home, and apparently there's something that happens between the Earl and the daughter, which is totally inappropriate, but interesting. And so she came up with this whole idea of, and she's just a maid in this Earl's house. But during a dinner party that the Earl has, where he invites the King of England and his wife, she suggests to him, because he finds out they talk about the mine explosion, along with, the war's not going to happen, World War I is not going to happen. Which, guess what? It happened. Although I'm sure there were a lot of people back then who probably didn't think it would. But anyway, so she suggests to the King, why don't you go and visit the families who have lost their loved ones in the mining accident? But the father does not approve of this. He's like, why did you do this? Like, that's none of the King's business. This was bad. Like, this is not, the King doesn't care about us, and it's inappropriate, and what's wrong with you? And so the father is not very pleased with his kids in the story. And then you also have two brothers who lost their parents. They got shot. Both their parents, I think, got shot. And as an adult, they're working at a factory as adults, and the older brother is taking care of his younger brother his whole life, and his younger brother is the more charming, good-looking one. So the older brother rescues this Gregorio. I think that's how you say it. He rescues this girl who's being harassed by the police, and he invites her, back to his home to stay for protection and stuff, and have a place to sleep for the night. And they're talking, and he tells her the story about what happened to his parents and how he's been taking care of his brother. And of course, his charming, better-looking brother shows up, and she's immediately taken with him. And that's how the chapter ends. So I'm guessing what's going to happen is she's going to marry the brother. What I like to believe would happen is that, okay, here's my thing about what I would love to happen in the story, is if she ends up marrying the brother, she marries him, but then realizes he's a total jerk, and she could do better, and so maybe she cheats on the brother with the other brother. Or, like, I know cheating, I'm not condoning cheating, and it shouldn't be romantic, but, I think that'd be so interesting, especially because I kind of want her with Gregorio over Lev. But if I can't have it, can I at least have, maybe she, or not necessarily cheating, but she's all interested in Lev, but then she realizes before she even marries Lev that Lev is not a great guy, and that she had a good one in Gregorio after all. I don't know what's gonna happen though. Who knows what's gonna happen? But anyway, but I definitely like Gregorio better out of the brothers. And like I say, we have an earl and his wife, and he doesn't have much of a relationship with his wife. It's just a marriage, of convenience, an arranged marriage kind of situation. So, but, I'm glad I'm at least, as far as, chapter 4, that makes me feel like So I'm also so I'm part of I'm doing the Classics Community Readathon, which is a readathon that Lucy, the reader, is hosting, and it takes place all year round. Although I think she has, I don't know if she has or she's going to do a readathon that is for 1 month for a week, like a traditional readathon. I don't know if she's already done it or she's gonna do it. I'm probably either way, whether it's already if it hasn't happened yet, I'm not gonna participate in it because I don't like week-long readathons. I don't know if it's gonna be a week or not, but I'm like trying to. I half-heartedly did the Blacklist readathon. I'm half-heartedly participating in the Blacklist readathon, or not Backlist readathon. I'm half-heartedly doing that, but I haven't been very active in that. I have read some books for that, maybe one or two, but that's about it. But anyway, in the Classics community, she arranged it so you can do buddy reads. It has a Goodreads group. She arranged it so you could do buddy reads on there. And there was one group there was actually a group that started doing Count of Monte Cristo, which I do need to continue. Which I guess I could still sort of participate in it if I just kind of prioritize that book for a little while. But also I've been focusing more on the buddy read where they are reading the big epic Russian classic, War and Peace. So I've started. And I did start it. Like I'm on part 2, chapter 1, which is good. I do appreciate that I'm stopped at a good stopping point. This is a Penguin Classics edition. Those black spines. And it's set during, I believe, the Russian Revolution. Or no, not the Russian, the Napoleonic Wars. And there's several characters, a story about several characters. Oh, Anthony. No, okay, and I think this is the good translation. Anthony Briggs. I think this is the translation that actually Steve Donahue recommends. The Anthony Briggs one. I think. Dang it. This is what happens when my books, they fall apart. I gotta stop doing that where I fold the page. But anyway, so I did start reading it. Like I said, I'm on part 2. I need to get back into it. But I like the writing styles, and it's not that hard to read. It's not like Old English or anything. It's not like trying to read Beowulf. But yeah, this is one I want to participate in, and I should have started, but we haven't. I haven't started. This maybe should be a book I should read tonight because we started this month. And then, okay, so some of the other tomes I'm looking into. So I'm trying to finish this one, which is the second book in the John Bastard series by Scott Lynch. And this is where Jean and Locke get to be pirates in this one. And as you can see, I've read a lot. I have a good chunk to go, but not that bad. I'm more than halfway. It's still going to take me a while to read it, and I'm reading. And again, this is the book I'm bringing with me to work and read during my 15-minute break, which is really not that long. But I'm probably going to read at least a little bit of it tomorrow or Tuesday. I love the series, and I love how unapologetic Locke is. He's a douchebag, and he makes bad decisions, and he does things that are, questionable, and he puts people's lives in danger constantly, even innocent people. But he's so unapologetic. That's why I like him, because he's so he doesn't care. He didn't care about anyone but his friends, of course. He cares about his friends, but he's very selfish. He's just so interesting to read about. Especially when he's the main character. Like, I kind of like when main characters are totally screwed up and not just character. Like, I would love to read a middle grade series where the main protagonist is supposed to help save the world is not a sweet, kind, caring person that's very humble and wants to help everybody and is totally clueless. Is like, doesn't want their powers or is afraid of their powers or whatever. I want one that's like, is greedy and selfish and just like, and just grows as a person, but starts on a very bad. But I guess it could be possible that people would not read that because, oh, we can't relate to that character, or I can't project myself into that character. But, I mean, the closest I've seen that is in The School for Good and Evil. I cannot pronounce the author's name of that series, which, actually, yeah, I can say it's a series now, because there was the 4th book that was written, and then now now the author wrote a 5th book. Although I guess it's a whole new story, but with the same characters. But anyway, like, the closest was that Sophie, and the Sophie character in that story, she thinks she's meant to be a princess, and she's meant to be the good guy side, but it turns out she's evil, so, of course. She's not just a flawed, a screwed up good character, she's actually a bad guy character. But then part of the message of that story is that we have these stereotypes and roles for certain types of people, but not everybody's going to meet that role perfectly, and that we shouldn't assign roles to people just because of certain criteria that we've been told our whole life that they should be. But anyway, so, and I do have the 3rd book in the series, so I'm just waiting on the 4th one. But it's so fun. It's fun, and it's like, I feel like it's more of an adventure story, while the first one was more of a kind of a thriller in a way. But yeah, I probably still won't get this done, but it's good that I'm reading more of it. Okay, so I'm also, before I talk about that one, I am kind of Monte Cristo here as well. Let me show you my edition of that. I have the Oxford World Classics edition, which has some notes and stuff. See, I've gone pretty far in it. So, I mean, this is, I don't know if it's halfway or not. But I gotta keep going. But the problem is that, again, not all these chapters are short. And the print is, and the writing style, the print is sometimes, let's say the print is good. But, it's, like, the writing style of older books is sometimes hard to follow. Sometimes it can be a little tedious at times. I still love the story. I'm really enjoying when I do read it. It's just, it will take me a long time. Okay, so next. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is, of course, so the book 7 of the Keeper of the Lost City series. And oh my, this again, the books just keep getting better and better and so much more fun and thrilling, and so much is happening. And now the characters finally realize, okay, yeah, we're elves and we're supposed to be peaceful. You know what? They never seem to keep screwing with us constantly, so we need to learn how to defend ourselves. And, the chapter I was just reading, Sophie's realized they are too predictable. So, if we learn how to fight, then that will catch them off guard, and that won't seem so predictable, because if the elves are passive people, a passive group of people, passive race, they don't fight. They're peace lovers. So, it unfortunately makes them predictable for the bad guys, the never seen. So, Sophie's realizing this, that as much as violence makes her uncomfortable, which kind of frustrates me, because it's like, sometimes you have to learn to defend yourself. I mean, I'm not saying go punch people or stab someone to death, but sometimes you're facing these horrible people, these bad guys, so stop being a sissy and learn how to defend yourself against these people. don't be on the offensive. Be the defensive. Fight back. Nothing is wrong with. They're bad people. They're horrible people. And they've done horrible things to you. They tortured you, and you're still hesitant to kill them. Don't want to kill them. Want to punish them. Like, I know they're not entirely. They're not really human, but still, I mean, they have. I feel like they express human emotions. I mean, but now I don't know if I'm gonna go to the library and to renew these two and return The Woman in Cabin 10 tomorrow or Tuesday, because like I said, I have 2 days off, but I'm also off on the 7th and the 8th, and the books are due back on the 8th, so I could do that, but I'm always worried that work is gonna call me, and then the next time they call me, I feel like I'm gonna have to say yes, because last time I said no, I couldn't do it, and I was feeling guilty about that. So pray they don't call me tomorrow, knock on wood. Wood this time, so maybe that's what it's real wood. But oh my god, these characters are so frustrating though. It's like, not just Sophie being like, oh, I know, I oppose violence, I don't think violence will solve anything. But also, okay, so, well, first off, they finally resolved, in the last book, they finally resolved one issue of the little love triangle square thing, the love drama, because Sophie, they finally solved that problem. It's like, thank God, finally! And you just want Sophie to stop being such a little chicken and tell reveal her crush to Fitz, because she's a crush on Fitz. And she's in denial, but Keith likes her too. He has feelings for her. And there's something going on between them. And yet she's in denial, thinks, oh, we're just friends. Like, oh, God, wake up, woman. Why do you think your dad does not trust Fitz and is so protective? And why Sander and your dad were so amused? And when, I can't remember if it was the last book or the book before that, when they were like, oh, honey, we know you like him and you would love for him to be your, and he likes you. You're naive if you think otherwise. Like, again, that is embarrassing. It would be frustrating if your dad all of a sudden went into, like, let's have the talk. Or, I don't approve of this boy. Even though you're like, oh, I don't feel that way about him. It's like, oh God, yes you do. And these two have such an intimate bond that she doesn't even realize it. And I think that's why Fitz, he's very jealous. I think he's very jealous of that bond. And I think that's why he's constantly being like, but we're cognates. Like, yes, I think in a lot of ways the cognate connection will help them and stuff, but he's constantly, like, reminded, and yeah, I would be annoyed too if I were in the story and, it's like hearing that once again, but we're cognates, or I should come because we're cognates. Of course, being an outsider, it's less annoying, it's more amusing, and it keeps bringing it up. Although sometimes it can get a little annoying depending on the mood I'm in when I'm reading this book. And also, what else was I going to say? And now, the thing that's frustrating about Keith is that, okay, so he's kind of the bad boy role, that the dad doesn't approve of him, kind of, like, as close to a bad boy type in a middle grade series as you're going to get. And, I mean, there's things, of course, he's not going to do because it just would be too much for, like, a kid. It wouldn't be appropriate for a kid to read about. But it's like, oh my God, he's doing that thing that every bad boy does when they start to turn good because they fall for the good girl. Like, it's my fault. I put you in danger and you should stay away from me. And the constant blaming themselves, like, oh my God, you want to shake them. Sometimes it really is their fault. But in this case, Keith, yes, yes, he made some mistakes. He made some bad choices and bad calls, but some of those situations, he had no control over them. He had no idea. He did not know that any of this was going to happen. He couldn't control it. So it's like, how can it be your fault when you can't control this? You have no power in this situation. Things happen. Stuff happens. Yes, you made bad choices, but you had no control over how these people were going to react. You had no control of, and it's not your fault that these people manipulated you. Okay? You can't control that. You don't know. You're not like a genius that should have known better. You're not, yes, you can be clever and stuff, but how could he have known? And it just frustrates me. It's like, stop blaming yourself, you dumbass. And I want I want Sophie to be like, look, this is my decision. I want you in my life whether you like it or not. You're going to be in my life, and I will hate you and I will never forgive you if you push me away like this or blame yourself for the situation. Like, I think there are a lot of characters that she should say that to, because there's a lot of characters that care about her so much and want to protect her, and if things fall apart and she gets hurt, then they blame themselves. I mean, that happened with another character in Sophie in this, and it's just like, oh, I want her to be like, this is my life, my decision. Yes, I may still be a kid in the literal sense, but you know what? People are messing with my life, so I should be allowed to decide who I want in my life, who I trust. Okay, and don't look at me all condescending, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or you pity me because I can't, And I just want him to stand up to them and shake them, and be like, no, this is my decision, and I'm not allowing you to go, and if you leave me, I will hate you forever. Of course, sometimes, even if you say that, even if you friend to hate someone or they'll never forgive someone, they'll be like, they still think, well, you know what, I can live with that because I know what's best for you. It's like, no, you don't know what's best for me. Okay, this is my life, not yours. And don't look at me like I'm some naive kid. Okay, and the fact that she's, Sophie, after all she's been through, all the pain she suffered, she deserves a right to choose who she wants to keep in her life, who she wants to forgive and love and everything. But I just feel very strongly about this. So in this book, I am on in the middle of, let me see, it might be easier if I go this way, in the middle of chapter 10, so I'll be on chapter 11 the next 2 pages, and then I gotta read chapter 12, the good news is this only has 53 chapters, but, it's taking me some time to get back into the series, and, when I start reading these books after a period of time when I'm not reading them, there are things about middle grade, because they're written for younger readers, I'm not the target audience, that I have to remind myself of that fact, that I'm not the target audience, so the writing style is going to be a little different, so it does take me some time to get past some of the minor irritations of this writing style. And, that the plot is very simple and things are good, it's sometimes can be a bit predictable too. Okay, so anyway, there's that one. Now let me get to the other main book I wanted to. The other book I started reading. Now, at first I thought this book was a fantasy. I'm surprised. I thought it was gonna be a fantasy, but it's actually not a fantasy. It's on Goodreads it's categorized as a mystery thriller actually. The Carnival for the Dead by David Hewson. Or Hawson. I don't know. I'll have to figure out how to pronounce that. And so far, it takes place in Italy, and you have our main character, Teresa Lopia, who receives a message from her aunt Sophia, who she admires this woman is adventurous, free-spirited person, and Teresa would love to be her, but she knows that she can never be like her. It's just not in her, and but she receives a message from her aunt saying that she has stuff to do, but she needs Teresa to take care of her place for her. So Teresa, accompanied by her mom, they go to Venice, where her aunt last lived, and they approach her apartment, and Teresa believes that her aunt is still alive somewhere, but her mom, who does not have the best relationship with her sister, who does not think very highly of her sister, in fact thinks that her sister is a bad example for her daughter, and is very pessimistic about being able to find Sophia, and is like she's probably dead, And she also doesn't want to be here in Venice. She's not very comfortable being here. Which, I'm guessing there's more to that story than meets the eye. I don't know if we're ever going to learn that. But, and Sophia convinces her mother that to go back home, since she clearly doesn't want to be here, and probably will more hinder Teresa's search than help it. Meanwhile, in the next chapter, we also have this guy, that I think he's a British guy, this guy named Jerome, and I believe he's in Venice too, and he's, like, he ends up meeting, after, like, being kicked out of a bar, a pub or whatever, and going to a museum, he ends up meeting Sophia at the museum. Now, I don't know if this is present, and maybe we're gonna get their Sophia and Teresa stories parallel to each other. Or maybe this is in the past, and this explains the situation that Teresa is in right now. I need to look up what the title of the chapter means. I need to look that up. But, like I said, I thought it was fantasy, but it's not. I mean, it could still be potentially magical realism. But there's this whole carnival involved in it. But it's actually really good because I've definitely been more into getting into thrillers. And again, I don't want this to be a situation like what I said with, what's it called? People of the Book. The book that I bought from Gibbons last time. I don't want this to be a situation where it's like I don't start it and then I have it for a long time and then I finally am like, let me just look up on Goodreads and see if it's worth keeping and checking out. And then I end up giving it back. I don't want this to be another situation, so I want to read both these books and not, and decide after I read them if I want to keep them. It's just I always feel pressure to get rid of books. And it's like, I want to do it now. I want to get rid of it now. And because I'm feeling guilty that I have so many books on my shelf. But this one kind of makes me think of Dan Brown. But it also makes me think of a book that I can't remember if I DNF'd it or if I finished it or not. Or maybe I got close to finishing it, but I ended up not finishing it. That book was called City of Magic, and it does have a sequel. Or City of Dark Magic, and it does have a sequel. And it takes place, I can't remember where it takes place, but it's about this girl who has, this strong connection to classical music, particularly, I believe, Beethoven, and she gets invited to archive his music, and then finds out about this special experiment that the people of the museum are doing where they will send you back in time or project you back in time. There's no time machine involved or anything or a watch or something. But you have to ingest the toenails of the person whose life you want to go back in time to, project yourself back in time to. Which is so gross and weird. The whole toenail thing is ugh, really? That's the best you can come up with as far as quirky and creative way of traveling through time? It's gross. And the rest of the plot was interesting, but it was a disappointment. But that went along with Dan Brown. Maybe it's just because of the setting or whatever. And Dan Brown's books are thrillers. They're essentially about Robert Langdon and him. Most of them are. I don't know if he's written anything outside of the Robert Langdon series. But this guy is investigating these mysteries and that have to do with mythology and religion and all that a lot of times. And this kind of reminds me of that. Let's see. For the Dead. So far it's really interesting. So that is my reading update. It's getting late. It's dark now. It's actually it's 7:35. And I want to take a shower and then I'm going to get some dessert. Which by the way, my mom got cupcakes. and we decided we're rooting for Kansas City. We're rooting for them because my sister has friends that live in Kansas City. So that's the team we chose to root for. Not that I'm actually gonna watch it, but my mom is gonna watch it. So, but she ended up getting cupcakes that have to do with Kansas that have the colors of Kansas City. I'm guessing I didn't pay attention to this, but I'm guessing each of the cupcakes all have to do with the colors of the two teams playing. And I guess whoever you're rooting for, you get the colors of their team. So anyway, so that is my reading wrapped up, or more like a chat about my reading this past week and what I'm going to read the rest of this month. So if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. If you are so inclined, feel free to share what you are currently reading if you're participating in Tome Topple. And I hope I will talk to you guys later. Alright, bye!